right, YouTube. Today, we are going to be turning this M4 style, more modern AR-15 lower into something more retro, right, for the M16 build. We'll be installing this M16a1 Vietnam era surplus GI stock with trapdoor, right? Thank you, Numerich Gun Parts. We'll also be installing the A1 length buffer tube or receiver extension with rifle buffer and rifle spring. We'll be removing this M4 style 90s Tapco stock. We will be removing this carbine receiver extension, and we'll be removing this base plate and putting it on a different AR I have. We'll also be changing this 30 round magazine for a much cooler Vietnam style Colt marked 20 rounder. Enjoy. All right, step one is gonna be removing the old stock. You're gonna pull straight down, straight out, right? If you don't know how to pull this off, that's easy. A little spring on there. Instead of pulling down to adjust, you pull up and out, and it just comes right off of the receiver extension. Now we are left with the lower, right? And we'll be pulling it off. All right, now that we have our lower pretty much ready to go, right? We're gonna use our Brownells block. Gonna put it in the gun, just like you put a magazine in there. Secure, right? You're gonna put it in your vise, Harbor Freight vise. We're gonna clamp this all the way down. All right, nice and secure, right? We have it locked in tight. Now we're gonna use our armorer's wrench. Armorer's wrench from Brownells, American-made stuff, good stuff, right? You're gonna take this side, which is made for carbine buffer tubes, right? Buffer tube, receiver extension, same thing, right? So you're gonna slide this over the end and it'll pop into these little grooves, right? Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It's staked right now, so it should be fairly difficult to loosen it up, but once you loosen it up, it will come right off. So we'll do that now. Look at that. Once you get it, one rotation, it should just unscrew. Be careful, because there's a little spring right here, which is your detent spring for your rear takedown pin, right? So hold this base plate, unscrew this, and now you're gonna very carefully, right, start pulling. We'll pull this off first. Be very careful with it. Come on, that spring, and there it is. You can see it captive in there. I'll try to zoom in on it. I'll get some extra footage of that. There's also a spring right here and a plunger. So you're gonna very, very carefully. In fact, I'm gonna pull this out. Use a pick. We're gonna pull the buffer tube out before we pull the rest of this out. Broken buffer tube. The more you know. All right, now we can very carefully depress this plunger and unscrew this. All right. Leave that plunger in there, right? We're gonna need that. We're gonna finish unscrewing this. And now we have our castle nut, our receiver extension, and this little base plate, which will be going on a different AR. We'll be spray painting that now. Cut to that. We've got this installed, got it all put back together, and I think these are really handy. You know, I like having them on there. They're like 10 bucks. I think that's crazy not to have them on any of his main rifles. All right, now we're gonna take our Knight's Armament A2 buffer tube, right? We're gonna begin threading this in here. It's gonna thread just like the last one, right? You get a good view. And you're gonna thread it all the way until it starts to make contact with that plunger in there.
Sometimes start me as a bugger. There we go.
All right, once you've made contact with that plunger, you're going to depress the plunger like that. You're gonna screw this in just a hair, right? You want it to be just right to the middle there, just to where that plunger will keep in your buffer weight, right? So you want it just right there. I'll get good footage of that right here. That's what it's gonna look like, all right? Now that you have that on, right? We're gonna take our new stock. So now we have our new Vietnam era military trade-in stock, $19. Thank you, Numrich. Good price for one of these. We're gonna slide this on our buffer tube, right? We're being very careful to make sure that spring, this spring, I'll get a close-up of it here, it's gonna stay right in there, right? We're gonna slide this in carefully. You don't wanna kink that spring up. There we go, look at that. All right, and now we'll be installing this screw right here. You see this screw up here? And that's gonna be going into the back of the receiver extension. We're gonna very carefully start screwing this in. We're gonna use a correct sized screwdriver. You do not wanna strip this out, but it should go in fairly easily. Look at that. And then it'll tighten up in there. You don't wanna go ridiculous with this because every time you pull this off, you have to pull this off. So just nice and snug. You don't want to strip any aluminum parts, but now it is quite secure. And we have, come on, buddy. Look at that. Look at all that room in there. Isn't that cool? And that just pops back in there. So this is our old Carbine buffer weight spring. It happened to actually break, right? This is the little rubber end of the buffer tube, or end of the buffer weight. So I guess it was about time to change that anyway. Broke on the way out. Probably 6,000 rounds through this lower. I bought it a while ago, so that makes sense. We'll now be putting in our slightly longer and weightier buffer assembly. We'll slide just like Carbine. We'll go right in there. And if it is retained, that means we did everything correctly. You can see with the new stock and the new magazine, this is really starting to take shape. And you can see once I get the barrel, the plan is starting to come together. Barrel's still coming in the mail, but I think this is gonna turn out quite cool. Let me know what you think in the comments and stay tuned for more parts.